Joining me now is Alex Newman. He is one that has been tracking globalism and all that's happening economically and so many topics we talk about with him. But tonight I want to focus in on what we've really been dealing with, and that is the Hegelian dialectic process. Thesis and antithesis. Idea, opposite idea. They fight, they fight, they fight. Because as you know, I believe what we're seeing in California is a manufactured crisis. The question is, what will the solution be? And I believe today, or yesterday, has come out today, the president of the Senate in Mexico spilled the beans. He's like, hey, well, we're going to build the wall, remember? And we're going to take in Texas and Arizona and Utah and California. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, this fits with the whole idea of a North American Union. President Trump's already proposed Canada as a 51st state, maybe grabbing in Mexico, Greenland. Sounds like to me, this is where we're headed. Remember George W. Bush and the president of Mexico at the time, Vicente Fox, were talking about it. Even the Amero, he said, was something to Larry King, he said, is down the road. So is this all being orchestrated? And you need a good crisis to get it done. Let's continue that theme tonight. Alex, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Here. Thanks for having me, Brannon.
So what do you make of this? I think these Mexican flags waving, the president of Mexico is encouraging this. Now the president of the Senate saying, well, we'll build the wall. We'll just take over Arizona and Utah and New Mexico and California. It's all ours anyway. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. We were proposed with the idea of Canada as a 51st state, where there was talk of a North American Union for years. President Trump seemed to be kind of saying things that make us think that maybe he was thinking about that. And now we have the chaos. And I've been saying to people like Patrick Wood, maybe the goal here is you want to be able to keep your Hispanic friends here, the kids that go to your kids' schools, you go to church with. Maybe some of you have a housekeeper who've been with a family. No, they don't have to go. We just need to do the biometrics, 16.9, the goal of Agenda 21. And let's get everybody a biometric, and let's back our currency, have a common North American currency. The economic crisis is here. We've got all kinds of things going on. We just need the biometric. And voila, Palantir shows up at just the right time to help us have a file on every American. I don't know about you. To me, this seems highly orchestrated. What say you?
There's no question it's highly orchestrated, Brandon. You and I both know that. You can see this from a mile away if you know what to look for. The protests are, of course, very carefully managed. They are controlled behind the scenes by very powerful players. You look at the groups that are organizing this. They've got the usual suspects funding them, from Soros and Rockefeller and this pro-communist China gazillionaire that Trevor Loudon was just talking about with you recently. So these are very carefully orchestrated scenes. And the North American Union agenda is very real and very much alive. Because you were talking about Mexico, I'll chime in here. I grew up in Mexico, in Latin America. I spent more time living in Mexico than any other place in the world. And half of the day I was in the Mexican section of a French school. And so I had Mexican teachers. I can tell you that children in Mexico are absolutely taught to believe that evil gringos invaded Mexico, killed their niños héroes, their heroic boys, and then stole all of their land. Now, of course, that's not the truth. The truth is that we fought a war with Mexico. They ceded that territory that includes California, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, even parts of Wyoming. They ceded that as part of this treaty. We paid them a huge amount of money. It was almost totally uninhabited at the time. And so the Mexicans are lied to, but they are conditioned to believe from the time they're little kids that the evil gringos, myself included, by the way, my teacher always made a point to point out that I was a gringo, that we came and stole their land and killed their people. And they are very resentful of that to this day. Mexicans, of course, are very patriotic, kind of like Americans used to be. So absolutely dangerous agenda that's happening here. And the chaos is always used by these evildoers to advance their agenda. And that's what we're going to see here. I think the North American Union agenda is one of the objectives. I think forcing Trump to respond in a way that they can frame as dictatorial is another part of this. They want Trump to look like a dictator, and they need something to cause him to do that. This looks like it's being set up as a perfect opportunity for that. It'll also, unfortunately, I think, set the precedent for the President of the United States to deploy the U.S. military against conservatives and Republicans. This talk of arresting Governor Newsom think it's very dangerous. And I think if possible, they would like to see two different things that seem contradictory happen at the same time. Kind of a breakup of the United States where California goes its own way and we see this governor saying, oh, we're not going to pay you your taxes and almost behaving like a Confederate. And then we see Trump trying to preserve the Union. If they could break apart the Union of United States and then merge us all back together into a North American Union, the amount of chaos that would result would enable a much more comprehensive response, shall we say, from the globalists. And it's not a partisan agenda. In fact, we have the WikiLeaks documents from 2007. Thankful to WikiLeaks for releasing those, where George Bush's ambassador, Paul Cellucci, I think was his name, in Ottawa, was plotting with the Canadians how to bypass our constitutions so they could merge us into a North American Union. And they talked about the possibility of a North American parliament, a North American currency. They tricked Trump, I believe, in the first administration to sign the USMCA, which kind of laid the groundwork for massively expanding the power of these North American tribunals, these North American bureaucracies. So we're in the middle of what the World Economic Forum described as a polycrisis. It will get worse, and they hope to use it for the purpose of taking out our sovereignty and fundamentally transforming our society.
Now, very well said, as always, Alex. Now, let me show you this here. This is the president of the Senate of Mexico. Look at this here. Here he has his map he's holding up. So there you go. It's like, yeah, we'll build the wall. We told Trump we'll build the wall, and here's how it's going to go. We're taking all this back. So the art of the deal, if you will. Is this not again how the globalists are doing the art of the deal? Whoa, we don't want you taking that back, but maybe we could come up with something where we just all are three happy countries. And look at this. You have the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who is so big in the UN and has been so involved in so many of those global issues. He just happens to show up as the president or as the Prime Minister of Canada at just the right time. I mean, it all just seems like pieces on a chessboard. But here's my concern. I think President Trump has no clue what we're talking about. Zero. He didn't even know.
You're right, Brannon.
He did not even know the drones had attacked President Putin's plane. The media had to tell him. He didn't seem to know that Zelensky's country was going to, let those drones out and attack Russia's plane sitting on the tarmac. He didn't seem to know that in advance, which tells me this guy is not getting what he needs. He needs to call you and me in. He needs to call you, me, Trevor Loudon. There's a whole group of us. He could call in, make his kitchen cabinet, and we could tell him about all of this, because I've been doing this 35 years. You've been doing it a lot of years. Trevor's been doing it a lot of years. He does not realize. I mean, they set him up with COVID. I'm sorry. They did.
Absolutely.
And they're doing it again.
Yep.
But on a different way. What say you?
I think you're exactly right, Brandon. And it's unfortunate. Our mutual friend, General Flynn, put out a statement a few days ago where he warned about the deep state within the U.S. government that was trying to...
I saw that.
With Russia, right? They're trying to foment a third world war, which you and I, of course, have been warning about as long as I remember knowing you. Here we are, closer than ever before. And you're right, Trump is not getting this information. There are gatekeepers who are controlling access to him. Now, during the first administration, I was contacted by one of his senior advisors, and I was asked to prepare a memo about the dangers of this U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. And I happily did so. I was told the president read it, but he did it anyway. And I think that's because he was being told, and I don't know for sure, but I think that's because he was being told, yeah, there's those concerns, but this is going to be great for American farmers. It's going to be great for American manufacturers. It's going to be great for the U.S. economy. Everybody's going to give you all kinds of great credit. So he fell for that one, which was very unfortunate. I think what's happening now is he's got people in key positions that are not telling him the whole context. Mike Waltz, I think, was a really good example of this. I cried foul immediately when Mike Waltz was named as National Security Advisor. The guy has been involved with the Council on Foreign Relations for years. His wife is a member of the CFR and, of course, the World Economic Forum for good measure. This is the worst kind of person to put in charge of the National Security Council. And some of his lackeys are still there, by the way, even though he's been demoted to go, hang out at the UN. Some of his people are still there. So he's got people like this around him to this day that are controlling what information he has access to. And without understanding the big picture, he becomes much more susceptible to these kinds of manipulations. And I think they could be setting him up for a disaster in California. If he deploys the Marines and the Marines get put into a situation where they have to fire in self-defense, That will be on the front page of every newspaper around the world. The headline will be Trump the dictator deploys the military to shoot innocent civilians on the streets of Los Angeles. They will have gotten exactly what they wanted.
Yep.
And then, of course, they can continue down this road. And again, it'll set the precedent for the next time we have a deep state Democrat puppet in the White House to use any means necessary to silence what would be actually generally peaceful conservative resistance to federal power grabs.
He's walking right into a trap.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
100% agree. Now, look at this. He tweets out today, our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me, full of magnets, and any necessary rare earths will be supplied up front by China. Now, let me just stop there. I think it's 2010. 2010, I started doing radio saying, watch as they try to back the world's currencies with hard assets like land. This is why the federal government's going to start grabbing more and more and more and more land. And of course, now that's what everyone's talking about, right? Well, that wasn't hard to figure out because you got to have hard assets. What's the Bible say is real wealth? Land, cattle, right? Houses, gold, silver. So it made sense. Grab the land, you got the minerals, back your currency, hard asset. Otherwise, people aren't going to trust it. So it seems like he's cutting deals with countries to grab more minerals. So he's clearly on a path of trying to figure out some way to shore up the American dollar that's collapsing. So he's got so many things on his plate. This is one reason why I think he's so easily distracted and led down a path. You and I both have been at, different times in our life where we have so much going on, so much coming at us, that at some point you start having to delegate more and more and more and more. And then at some point you look around and you say, I don't have as much control as I used to over my own destination, my own organization, where I'm going, because I have so much going on and so many people doing other things that you end up just being briefed and told what's happening, or maybe not told, or you find out later, did you really do that? Did you say that? Did you agree to that? Oh, no. And then, so can you imagine, even if on a small scale, you and I have experienced that, many in our audience who run organizations or companies know what I'm talking about, or a large family, or a volunteer organization of some kind. You have a big event that you're planning, a tournament or fundraiser. But imagine that now on steroids as president. It's not hard. You got everybody coming at you. You got to be controlled. You can't have everyone blowing your phone up. You've got to have order. So all of these structures are put in place for a president that make him very isolated. So he doesn't realize maybe what's coming. But he also, at the same time, realizes the major things that are coming. And so he starts trying to repair the collapse of the economy because he was running on not going to war and a good economy. So now he's cutting a deal with China. We're going to get minerals. He's got a minerals deal now with Zelensky, which really means now some kind of 10-year security agreement with Ukraine. And that's going to be weird because if they keep pushing this in the NATO, they're going to drive us to war, and we're going to be obligated to jump in, and then we're off to World War III. But then the other thing about this tweet that concerns me, we will provide to China what was already agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities. I don't like that. We don't need the Chi-Com students over here as spies and stealing intellectual property.
Exactly.
I don't agree with this at all. Do you?
I do not at all. You just hit the nail on the head. Not all, but the majority of Chinese students who are coming to the United States to study are here. They are actively cooperating with the intelligence agencies. They are actively stealing some of our most advanced research that we American taxpayers are paying for. It's a total disaster, and Trump needs to understand that. I know he's trying to make a good deal with the Chi-Coms here. They've really got him in a catch-22, Brannon, and I think that was their plan all along. He doesn't really have any good options, and it's the same with the situation in California right now. You cannot allow a bunch of Marxist revolutionary terrorists to burn down cities, to loot businesses, to burn cars, to attack law enforcement. That's obviously unacceptable. They're trying to foment a revolution, and I suspect it'll probably get bigger by this weekend with all these protests set for all over the country. At the same time, if you react in an improper way, you're going to give them exactly what they want. A lot of the people behind the scenes, not the dummies, the cannon fodder that are out there protesting, they don't know any better. They're probably, many of them, being paid. They're being told that you got to resist a fascist. They don't understand that they're being used as pawns here. But the people behind the scenes understand full well. They want bloodshed. They want terrible pictures pictures to come out of Trump using the U.S. military to suppress these really very dangerous riots, the dangerous revolutionary movements. It's the same situation we're dealing with on China here. They want to box them into a corner where there are no good options. If you totally cut off all trade with China immediately, you collapse the economy. If you continue allowing this situation where the communist Chinese are preparing for war against us as we speak, using our technology, using spies all over our country, you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. So Trump has got to bring some good advisors around whom will understand these things. I hope he'll pick up the phone and contact General Flynn. He ought to call you. He ought to call Trevor Loudon. He ought to call Patrick. He ought to call a lot of these people who know what's going on here for advice, because he's not getting good advice, unfortunately, right now from some of the people around him.
Alex Newman, he is at libertysentinel.org. We're going to take just a few more minutes with him after this break. libertysentinel.org. Of course, folks, you can support us by simply going to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. And of course, our foundation is one of the greatest ways you can support us. worldviewfoundation.com. worldviewfoundation.com. Think of us as your Christian worldview alternative to national public radio and television. Difference is we don't get government money. We're supported by Christians and patriots just like you to keep pushing out free educational and Christian worldview programming, including our Sunday night church service. We'll be right back.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
Looking for a trusted source to understand today's world through a Christian worldview? Worldview Tube is built on the 35 years of Worldview books, columns, research, and high-profile interviews of Brannon Howse. Want to know more about Worldview Tube, its founder, history, team, and mission? Visit worldviewtube.com/about. That's worldviewtube.com/about. Worldview Tube is your source for understanding the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
All right, joining me now is, again, Alex Newman. Alex, what do you think is going to happen this Saturday, June 14th? Do you think, the website nokings.org, do you think anything's going to happen?
I don't know. I think the revolutionaries and the gazillionaires behind the revolutionaries would love for something to happen. They would love to see some of these agitators throw a brick at a policeman and have a policeman pull out a firearm and shoot them. They would absolutely love it. It would be the perfect propaganda tool, the perfect rallying cry to spark a revolutionary movement. I have said, and we've talked about it many times on your show, Brannon, they want a civil war in this country. They want Americans to murder each other. And an incident like that would be absolutely a perfect catalyst for what they're hoping to do. So I would urge people to be very, very careful. I would urge people to pray and I would urge people not to fall for the provocations, especially police officers. A lot of these guys are paid provocateurs. They are highly trained. They've gone through classes on how to provoke exactly the kind of response that they want. Don't get tricked into doing what they want. It's very, very dangerous. This is a powder keg. And you and I have also talked, Brannon, about the foreign agents that are on our soil right now. Some of them will be at these things. Operatives for the CCP, special forces, Venezuelan intelligence, Cuban intelligence, looking for a spark to start a real revolution here. So I think it's very dangerous. No guarantee that something will happen, but a very, very dangerous situation that I think we all need to be paying attention to.
Mm-hmm. So in our remaining moments here, Alex, I asked Michael Yon this last night. Is this the beginning of a civil war or the attempt at a civil war in America? Or is this the beginning of World War III in a more open way, hitting our shores? I already think World War III is underway. I already think we've seen gray terror in America, which is what countries do to you before you go to war. They start attacking your infrastructure. They start attacking your food supply. I read today where, I read at worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site. I put up an article today where a food company, a supplier of food, here he goes, temporary disruption, cyber attack on Whole Food suppliers sparks shortages in the stores. I mean, this is how easy it is, folks, for the grocery stores to start going bare. The food supplier can't fill orders because they've had a cyber attack. So one of the largest distributors of food can't get food to the stores. So I think there's been a lot of gray terror going on the last few years. So I think in some sense, the World War III has already started. It's already going on in a sense in America, certainly the information warfare, the cyber warfare, the economic warfare. But is this attempt at a civil war part of World War III? Or is it a separate issue? Because I think they're the same game. To create civil war in America, to distract America, and particularly if President Trump has to call out the troops all over the place. Because, wait a minute, we need our troops to secure us. Right, they shouldn't be going all over the world. But if you then have a problem going to the defense of Taiwan, should we do that? Well, good luck. The troops are distracted in America. I mean, this seems like a perfect formula they're setting up. And I don't know if you know this, but we carried an article last night that since Biden came into office, from Biden till now, 4.5 years, the American population has lost half of our police forces. They've walked off the job, half. I mean, everything is lining up for the enemies of America.
It is. And I don't think you can understand the one without the other. I think the civil war that they are trying to provoke in the United States is actually a part of the Third World War that they hope will emerge, that they hope will produce a fundamentally restructured global order, what they call a multipolar order. First, you have to take down the unipolar power, that being the United States. And between World War III, with China and Russia, with the Marxists, with the Islamists, and a domestic civil war that is intimately intertwined with that mess, what will emerge on the other side is a new world order with a significantly diminished United States, a world divided up into regional powers. And I think that's where they're going with this, Brannon. I don't think their agenda is necessarily going to succeed, but that's what they want. And we have to be very careful. And I think, folks, now would be a really good time to get in prayer. Would be a good time to read your Bible, and would be a good time to get involved before it's too late.
Indeed, it would be. So final question. Global warming. I know they were trying to run this whole thing on global warming. People aren't buying that. So what is going to be the scare tactic they use to get people to surrender their rights? Is it terrorism? Is it economic collapse, hyperinflation? Is it civil war in the country? Is it pandemics, biological weapons, the threat of World War III? I can't really think they want to use nuclear weapons. That doesn't seem like that's going to benefit anybody. But maybe a cyber attack on a grid going down for a few weeks. Or is it all the above? Do you see these things being used as the way to get people to say, we've got to go to some way in which we can eliminate wars? So let's start creating unions and North American Parliament, a North American currency, and you have 10 regions that work with 10, presidents of each union, which sounds just like out of Daniel chapter 7. And, we see this all over the book of Revelation, chapter 13, all over the place. Have they given up on the global warming and they're going to go with the multi-prong approach?
Well, the World Economic Forum a couple of years ago gave a very cryptic post on its website talking about the prospect of a poly-crisis. And I think all of those things you just listed are fair game. Prepare for economic chaos, military chaos, public health chaos, environmental chaos, spills, crashes of infrastructure, cyber pandemic, as Klaus Schwab called it. I think we're staring down the barrel of all of those simultaneously. So the fear that people experienced during COVID, multiply that by 100. People will be willing to surrender their rights, surrender their freedom, whatever it takes to make this craziness stop. And I think that's what they have been planning for a very long time. So now would be a good time, folks, to be spiritually prepared and physically prepared for what's coming. And I really appreciate you having me on the program, Brannon. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Alex Newman checking in tonight, folks. LibertySentinel.org, LibertySentinel.org. So much happening in the world, folks, right? There's so much going on. Here we go. Here's another headline. U.S. rethinks support for independent Palestinian state. The U.S. no longer fully supports an independent Palestinian state, says Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Well, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. We'll see where that goes. What else is in the news? Well, there is also talk of maybe a strike by Israel on Iran coming. We'll keep you posted on that. But supposedly, the officials, our American officials at the embassy in Baghdad, have been warned to clear out. We're getting a lot of reports tonight about that. We're going to have to follow and try to figure out what is fiction and what is fact. But I don't know. Is Israel about to go it on their own? And again, what would that mean for America? So, very complicated world we live in. I'm glad I'm a Christian tonight. How about you? There was a great speech today given by Marjorie Taylor Greene on one of the individuals that's behind supposedly a billionaire or close to it behind a lot of these groups that are involved in the chaos in California. You want to hear what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say today? It was really good. Watch and listen to this, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There is a unifying belief of the left, a hatred of America and Western civilization. Anti-Israel extremism is frequently part of a broader anti-Western sentiment. It's why so many of the protesters at the LA anti-ICE riots are flying Palestinian flags while burning the American flag, and why Isra Hirsi, the daughter of a congresswoman who sits on Foreign Affairs, Ilhan Omar, said on her Instagram last week, from LA to Rafah, there is one common oppressor, death to the colonial empire. She also drew this connection between ICE enforcement in LA and Israel's war against Hamas. For the left, everything can be reduced to white people oppressing brown people, whether it be a BLM riot, a pro-Palestinian encampment, or an attempt to impede ICE from enforcing federal immigration laws. These protests are all organized by the same professional left-wing activists whose intent is to cause as much civil unrest and chaos as possible. Elias Rodriguez, the man who shot and killed 2 Israeli embassy officials last month, was deeply involved in this far-left activist ecosystem. Mr. Carafano, what far-left groups was Elias Rodriguez involved with?
So you raise a really important point, which is why that the threat of anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism in the United States is a bigger and broader problem, because when we look at the organizations which have supported and encouraged or discussed these— I'm
short on time, Mr. Carafano. What organizations?
So this is the Party of Socialism and Liberation.
Great.
Which has also been engaged in activities like BLM and other riots as well.
Now, would that be linked to Neville Ray Singham? Does that name ring a bell?
He is widely recognized as a major funder of the organization, and that's from Wikipedia. So.
Right. And just to go further on who Neville Ray Singham is, he's the son of a Sri Lankan immigrant and Cuban immigrant. But in 1974, he was investigated by the FBI for his ties to groups engaged against the United States interest. He was a member of a Maoist group. He's also said to be nearly a billionaire and gives his money frequently to left-wing organizations. He's even linked to the CCP. He currently lives and works in Shanghai. He shares office space with a Chinese propaganda firm focused on presenting a positive image of China to the global South. And in 2019, he started a consulting business with Chinese partners active in the propaganda apparatus of the CCP. He has provided significant funding to pro-China media outlets around the world, and he even married Jody Evans, the founder of Code Pink, in 2017. She used to be against China, but she's not anymore, and she's currently co-authoring a book titled China is Not Our Enemy. You know what's really interesting about this man is he uses the Goldman Sachs Philanthropy Fund. There's a lot of Americans invest their money with Goldman Sachs, but the Goldman Sachs Philanthropy Fund is a dark money clearinghouse to obscure his identity, Singham's identity, while facilitating the transfer of substantial sums to nonprofit. Things like the People's Forum, which received over $20 million from Singham through the Goldman Sachs Philanthropy Fund, organized anti-Israel protests across the country and was heavily involved in the protests at Columbia and the takeover of Hamilton Mall. Singham also funds $20 million through the Goldman Sachs Philanthropy Group to the Justice and Education Fund, which provides money to pro-China media outlets around the world. And just as you mentioned, the Party of Socialism and Liberation. That's the group that's organizing these lovely events happening in LA that Democrats call mostly peaceful, but the people in LA call fiery, violent, and call a war against America. He also funded, and unbelievably, the pro-Palestinian protests around the country and on campuses, and Elias Rodriguez, the man who killed the 2 young Israeli diplomats. Singham coordinated the anti-ICE LA protest. Again, this picture just can't be shown enough. And they have been coordinating these anti-ICE protests around the world, around the country. And more to come is what the Democrats tell us. Mr. Carafano, one last question. Do you believe China is funding the war against America?
There's a lot of activity in the public record that show Chinese money is flowing into many of these organizations which have been involved in planning and organizing and supporting these activities. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Carafano. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Well, there you go. There you go, folks. But I doubt you'll see that on your mainstream corporate media tonight, mixed in with all the pictures and images of the protests and the riots and the looting and the burning. We've been talking about this for so long. Enemies, foreign and domestic, unrestricted warfare, propaganda, behavioral sciences, the Hegelian dialectic process, the Fabian window. The change comes from the conflict. The change comes from the conflict. Most people don't see these events as connected, but they are connected. So much of what's happening in the world today is absolutely connected, but most people see them as different pictures and pieces, not as one puzzle. Well, that's our job here, to help you understand the times, how to connect the dots, reason, logic, context. And then, of course, what we do so uniquely different than so many others. We then push it through the grid, the worldview of the Bible. Seems as though the stage is being set for Bible prophecy to be fulfilled, does it not? A North American Union, a regional currency, then a global currency. Oh boy, I don't know about you again. I'm so thankful I'm a Christian and can have the peace that I have because I understand that the world is not running out of control. The pieces are falling into place for the Bible to come to pass and fulfilling Bible prophecy. We'll be right back. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they'd never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gadatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain of phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. One scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gadatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.